Hey guys, I wanted to make a video here to explain why I'm starting to post videos again after being on a year-long hiatus. I had a catastrophic year last year, 2022, um, due to a few different reasons. When I started lambing last February, few days into lambing, I had something that's never happened before, and that was ravens were diving on my lambs and killing them. They would do one of two things. They'd either peck their eyes out, or they'd land on them and peck into the top of the head where the skull is, super soft. And they would just peck into their brain, not eat anything, just leave them for dead. And I lost roughly 25 lambs from that. It wasn't the end of the predation though. Unfortunately, as the lambs grew and they got big enough, the ravens were not able to continue to kill them because the lambs started getting bigger and the bone structure started getting harder, and I started getting lambs that were actually surviving raven attacks. These ravens were doing it for fun, not to eat. They weren't hungry. They were just killing lambs and leaving them there. And all my mitigation tactics that I was trying weren't working. I tried using radios. I had the shotgun shells that explode, wildlife control, shotgun 12 gauge shells. I was shooting those and they worked for a little bit and they stopped working. And then I finally got wildlife services involved through the USDA, and they started helping me. But as they became involved, it went from a raven problem to a coyote problem. I had one really bad coyote. When I say bad, I mean old, smart male that's really hard to kill. And I caught him one time on my game cam. Came down the lane to where the sheep were, and he showed just all you could see in the dark was just the corner of one eye. He wouldn't pass in front of the game cam because he knew it was something different, because I had put it on a post. So I was trying to catch him to prove that it was a coyote and not something else that was doing it. And he wouldn't go past the game cam. Super sneaky, and he never presented himself in a way that I could get a shot off. Anyway, he ended up killing about 25 lambs too on his own. What he would do is he'd come into the holding pen that I had all the lambs and the ewes in, and he would come in. This was May last year, so they were about 2 months old. The lambs had, probably 30 pound lambs, something like that at that time, 2 months old. He'd come in and kill 5 or 6 at a time, and he'd just leave them. He'd pack one off, or parts of one off, and he'd leave the other ones laying there. And so I couldn't figure out why he would do that, why he'd kill that many. And the wildlife services guy that was working with me explained what he's doing is he's got pups, because this is May is generally when those coyotes are denned up and they're having litters or pups or whatever you call it, over in these hills to the east of me. And so he's killing all these lambs, taking one back but leaving a bunch there, a bunch of dead animals there, and knowing he can come back later in a day or two and he's got more meals sitting around, because he can't carry it all back in one trip. So he knows he's stockpiling additional carcasses to bring back to his pups, and his mate. So we finally got him with a foot trap. After 2 weeks of snares and foot traps, this wildlife services guy that worked with me, he saved me big time. But it was still a fiasco. At this point, I'd already lost 50 lambs to predation between the ravens and the really bad coyote. And I've had coyote problems in the past, but it was never nothing at this scale. I'd have 2 or 3 killed each year. Sometimes I'll shoot a coyote. Sometimes I never find them, but it was never, 2 or 3 lambs isn't gonna. It's not good, but it's not something that's gonna ruin me. But 25 that's a big deal. That's like a $5,000 hit for me. So between the ravens and the coyotes, now we're down about 10 grand worth of losses. And I thought that was the end of it. I believe it was in June or it was late June, early July. I had an even worse predation event, and not from a natural predator. I woke up 4 in the morning. I could hear what sounded like my sheep, my ewes, and the lambs pairing up. And I didn't think much of it, went back to sleep. I woke up again at 5 a.m. an hour later, and I could hear what definitely sounded like the sheep were in distress. Something didn't sound right in what I was hearing. So I ran outside with my 223 and I look out in the holding pen and I see dead sheep strewn up about everywhere. I saw like 15, 16 dead sheep just in one glance, just in that pen. And then I look out across the hayfield. The gate had been broken open and there was dead sheep all over the hayfield, leading all the way down to the creek. And I see 2 pit bulls running around in the hayfield, chasing down and killing my sheep. It was lambs, it was ewes, everything. They were not discriminating from one group of sheep or size or anything from the other. So, hey buddy. So I had no choice but to take care of those pit bulls, and of course I called the cops, the sheriff's department, and they got involved. I had animal control out here, and the owner of these pit bulls was out of town, negligent owner who wasn't taking care of his animals, and I love you too, buddy. And I've had several really bad interactions with pit bulls, them trying to kill my dogs, my herding dogs, these guys. Horrific interaction. And I did get compensation from the owner for my losses, for 39 of the losses, but I actually ended up having 4 more sheep and lambs died later in the following weeks due to their injuries. But the pit bulls they weren't hungry. They weren't, same thing as the ravens. They were just killing for fun. And I've seen it before a couple times. Nothing like at this scale, but I've seen when you get 2 bad dogs, they can play off each other. It's almost like a competition or a rivalry. It's a game for them. How many, what kind of destruction can we do left to our own devices? So anyway, to sum it up, I had a complete catastrophe. Sorry about that. Had to get my son a snack. Anyway, that's my long-winded explanation for why I stopped posting videos. Yeah, buddy. For the last year, I just got really beat down mentally and didn't feel like sharing all my miserable things that I was suffering through. But I wanted to start posting again and show you guys what's going on this year, because we're off to a much better start. Wildlife Services saved my ass big time on this deal. They put out treated eggs, so they go to the grocery store and they buy eggs, which are stupidly expensive now. That's another topic for another time. But they buy store-bought eggs and they inject them with a controlled poison that only the government has access to. That's from what I was told, specifically geared towards black feathered birds. It only kills black feathered birds. If dogs or another kind of aerial predator or something else gets a hold of it, it won't kill them, supposedly. Or if the ravens that eat these eggs, if they die and something else eats them, that poison can't pass through, or if it does, it's such a minimized amount or whatever the chemical, and it doesn't affect the next animal to eat that carcass. So anyway, they've been putting these treated eggs out on top of fence posts in kind of like a little makeshift nest with the cutout bottom of a bucket. And they've been doing it for my friend and neighbor as well, and her sheep. And that's been keeping the raven thing down. They haven't come back this year. I did get a license. I was able to kill one of them. You have to have a license to shoot ravens. I don't know if anyone knew that. I sure didn't. But anyway, long story short, we're off to a better start this year. No raven kills. Haven't had any coyote problems. Haven't had any pit bull problems. I don't know how many more bad pit bulls there are around my area, but hopefully I sure don't want to experience that again. So yeah, I'll start posting some videos again, show you how we're doing. This is my new mousing cat. Barn cat, mousing cat. She's I don't know, I think she's 5 months old now. She's pretty cool. Her name's Evie. We lost our really good mouser this winter. I'm not sure what happened. I just found her dead on the driveway, and she was only 5 years old, so I'm not sure what ailed her. But we got this cat through a friend, and I traded the guy who had her some milk in return for her. And anyway, she caught her first mouse that I saw 4 days ago, so that's her story. Back in November, Bela, one of the dairy cows, calved, and that's her calf. His mom is Jersey, and his bull, his sire rather, is Black Angus, one of my dad's Black Angus bulls back in Idaho. He's a pretty nice calf. We're gonna raise him up and keep him for ourselves. We'll butcher him next year, I guess. He's decent size, and that'll be our beef put in the freezers. These guys are kind of hiding behind the poop mountain here, but these are the surviving lambs from last year, market lambs, that I'm gonna sell right before Easter. So the sale, livestock auction sale, just prior to Easter is generally when spring prices are best. So hopefully I can salvage a little bit of my disastrous 2022 with those guys. I'm hoping that prices will be above $2 a pound live weight. Let's see what we get. These are my ewe lambs, my replacement ewe lambs that I'm holding back from last year's crop. They don't look that great because they're muddy and they're in a tight area, so I don't have any grazing right now, and I can't put them in if the ewes that are lambing because it's just too many animals, and I end up with more bottle babies that way. But I have them in if the dairy cows right now, and I have 5 rams in there as well, so I don't really care if they get bred. They'll lamb out on their own this summer. If they do, it won't be a disaster. And I've got Saga right there. She actually calved, I think it was December 22nd, December 23rd, 3 months ago, and she had twins. We're just coming out of a really wet spell. It's drying up now, but it looks bad in here just because when it rains day after day after day and you got livestock, you end up with piles of mud. Here's Saga. She's a nice girl. And then these are Saga's 2 calves. Even though they don't look like her, and they actually nurse on Frey half the time. Believe it or not, this one's actually not the friendly one. This one's a little bit bigger. That one is the friendly one. Those 2 calves belong to this cow. The reason they don't look like her is because their sire, or the bull that bred Saga, was a Norwegian red bull. And so they don't look like their mom, they look like their dad, at least color-wise. But she twinned, which is very unusual. It's like 5% chance or less, if I understand correctly, on dairy cows. It's like 1 or 2% chance on beef cows. And she calved, I guess it would have been 4th week of December. This is the friendly one, usually. She's being kind of spunky right now, but they're both heifer calves. And when I got up in the morning, I didn't expect her to calve for another week. She actually calved a little earlier than I had thought. I was watching her dilation and everything, and I thought we had more time. Otherwise, I would have checked more frequently. But when I got up in the morning, this second one, which was the smaller one, I had her in the barn, Saga, and this second one was on the ground. Thought it was dead when I walked up to it. It had gotten too cold. And I picked it up, and it was just barely breathing, had a very faint heartbeat, couldn't even lift its head up. I picked it up, carried it to the house, put it in the bathtub, and I let it sit in the bathtub with some 95-degree water for about 2 hours. Got its temperature back up, and then I tubed it for 2 days. I'll put a stomach tube down its throat, and because it was too weak to nurse on a bottle, and I saved it. Okay, sorry, we're back. I had to take a call. Anyway, these are the 2 calves that Saga had, and this is the friendlier one that I saved. And I've never seen one come back from that far gone. Usually when it comes to calves or lambs or goat kids, if it's so weak that I have to tube it, more often than not it doesn't make it. So I was really surprised that I was able to save this calf, and I'm glad I did. But because, the reason I got into this topic, because she got handled for those first few days and bottle fed, she's super friendly. This one I've been working on, but it's still, well, she's actually let me pet her. That's surprising. Usually she doesn't. She didn't get the attention the other one did. So but anyway, I like these 2 little heifer calves. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with them. Maybe try to make them into dairy cows. There's Evie again. But maybe I can make this one rideable for my son. Maybe he can ride her. I gotta push her back in the gate here. Here you go. Anyway, we're gonna continue with our chores this evening, and I'm gonna grab my crook and go catch a lamb that's really struggling right now. I think it needs to be pulled, and I need to bottle feed it because it's not getting enough milk, or his mom abandoned him or something. He or she, I'm not sure what the gender is yet. Anyway, that's what we're gonna do next. Here we go. Here's my crook. I keep it on the quad most of the time so that it's handy. Sometimes I forget where it is. Most of the time. And this crook has two ends. This is a leg catch on this end, and this is the head catch or neck catch, I guess. This doesn't really ever work. Anytime I try to catch someone with this, they slip out. This works extremely well. I have had really good success with that. Unfortunately, the little lock is getting stuck. I need to lubricate it, but it still will work fine without that. So let's go catch this lamb. Alright, so this is just a third of my sheep, or a little less than a third. I sent off 2/3 of them to my friend's place in Idaho to graze some alfalfa stubble field that he's got over there, and so that's made things pretty easy on me because I have a lot less sheep to deal with right now. And they started lambing earlier than I thought they were going to, because I screwed up and had a couple ram lambs that I missed when I was castrating, and they ended up breeding a bunch of the sheep. So I wasn't able to move them back before lambing, so they're still in Idaho, and I have to wait until those lambs are at least a month and a half old before I move them back over here. But we're here to find this little black lamb that I lost track of, that I need to pull out. He's a cute little few-day-old lamb. Most of these guys are a month to a couple days old. And we got about 2 more weeks of lambing, and then we're pretty much done. Because of the pit bull predation and all my other disasters, I only have about 173 ewes currently, I think, that are lambing this year, and I retained 15 ewe lambs. So from last year, so there'll be yearlings now. So technically, I guess I have 187, 188 ewes going into this year. And we usually hope for around 1.3 lambs per ewe that survive to fall. We probably average 1.5 or 1.6 lambs born per ewe, born live, but you lose at least 10% every year to health problems and predation, abandonment, other weird, birth defects, or who knows what else. So should be around 220 or 230 lambs this year. So it's just behind that little brown lamb. It's gonna be hard to show. There's a little black lamb right there. You can just see him now. He's in between that ewe. That's him right there. And I've been watching him, and I can tell he's got nothing in his belly. I can tell that by looking at it. He's just caved in, sunken in. His back is haunched a little bit, and I can just tell he's weak. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen him nursing on anyone, so he's probably been abandoned. And I'm gonna have a hard time showing this in a stable manner, but I'm gonna try to use this to catch him. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe it'll be easy. Oh, it's too little. Oh, that was a lot easier. Didn't even need the crook. Guess he's gotten weaker in the last hour since I was out here. Sorry for the poor camera work. You know, that's par for the course. I was trying to chase him down without the crook about an hour ago, and he was way too fast. He must be a lot weaker now for me to just walk up on him like that. So we'll carry him over to the barn and try to get some milk in him. See if he perks up. There's Evie. She's out here watching me catch lambs. Super cool cat. And the dogs. Nuka. That's Nuka right there. He's the puppy. Okay, it's gonna be hard to video this on my own, but there he is drinking. It took no time at all to get him to take this bottle, which means he was starving. If they're not starving, they don't want to take the bottle. It doesn't feel like their mom's teat at all, so they'll really fight it. And he's not fighting it. He just, he's so hungry. Sorry, it's really hard to videotape this, but he's so hungry he took right to it instantly. This might be a ewe. I actually don't know if this is a ewe lamb or a ram lamb. There's the cat. She's gotta be around for it all. Okay. Let's pick you up. Let's figure out what you are. Okay. This is that's a ewe lamb. I've been calling it a him, and it's a her. There's no testes there. So there he is, drinking some more. I gotta stop saying him. She's okay. So this we've done about 3 ounces here. These bottles are awesome, by the way. This is the Premier One sells them on their website. Use these for lambs and kids, and they use the Pritchard teat nipple, which you can actually cut to different sizes. For larger lambs, you can cut a bigger hole in the tip. Smaller lambs, you want it to be smaller so they don't choke on the milk. It's the best nipple you can buy for bottle feeding lambs or goats. There she is. So how hungry she was and how empty her tummy was. If I hadn't intervened, this lamb would have been dead. Probably tonight, sometime tonight. They go down really fast when they're little because they just have nothing stored up inside. If it's an older lamb, a month or a 2-month-old lamb, it can go a lot longer without eating, potentially a day or so. But when you're a baby, not getting food for even 6 or 8 hours can potentially mean death. So you got to feed these guys pretty frequently the first few days. So this is a sweet little lamb, I can just tell. So I'm glad I pulled her, and I'll stick her in with the other bottle lambs. I've only got 3 right now because I sold 2, and I only have 50 something ewes here. So there we go. Job well done. Another successful day. Well, thanks for watching this if you've made it this far. Sorry again for not uploading for the last year. I do like doing it. It is fun to share these experiences. I know the editing is bad, and I'm really not good about keeping anyone who's trying to follow this up to date with what's going on, but maybe there's something that someone could learn from watching this that could help them in some way, something that I've already screwed up on or failed my way through, that someone else can learn what not to do. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll try to upload more frequently from now on, assuming there's no more depressing disasters that I have to get through.